Breaking news in San Francisco, where a woman has been seriously injured after being hit by an autonomous vehicle.
Waymo already has a fleet of more than 700 driverless vehicles, no safety driver.
When they arrived on scene, they found a female underneath the left rear axle of a stopped autonomous vehicle.
And it's expanding rapidly.
Look around you. When is the last time you saw a car and were mesmerized, captivated by the beauty, the personality, and design? It's like when you see that girl that makes you do a double take. All the while, you forgot you were mid-conversation with your wife. Right now, it feels like every car on the road has been stuck in a blender and dumped on the road for the sake of safety and efficiency. You will see, these things are important, but how far are we willing to go to sacrifice beauty and inspiration? I don't know about you, but when I was a kid, I used to be able to identify a car at night strictly based on their headlights. Now, I can't tell the difference between these two cars. It's like we are constantly hit with design deja vu. The days of your car being a statement to the world are slowly disappearing, unless you drive a Subaru or a Jeep Wrangler, of course. But I argue that cars in the beginning looked the same, and the bifurcation happened somewhere in the 1950s. And since about 2008, it seems that every car is a clone from one brand to the other. Remove the badging, what difference is there really? But if history truly does rhyme, and comment below if you know who said that, then we might see a return to interesting and creative designs. The question is, does the public even want that? When I see and get into modern cars, especially many built after 2008, I don't feel any inspiration or excitement. Many just seem to feel lifeless and forgettable. But if we look at older designs from the golden era of the automotive industry, which in my opinion was the 90s and early 2000s, it's almost perfect in its own way. Some might call the craftsmanship dated, but to me, it feels like something that's been lost in time. Every time I step into my 92 Cherokee, I'm reminded of its simplicity, a kind of honest design we don't see anymore. When I touch it, there's this fleeting connection to the designers and engineers, an almost silent dialogue with people who cared about what they were building. It's a feeling that's rare now, a reminder of something we'll never quite get back in today's cars, because manufacturers are prioritizing science, engineering, and especially profit over style, which wouldn't be bad if it were specific brands or models doing that. For example, if you wanted a cheap car, you'd buy something like a Corolla or Civic, and if you wanted a super gas saver, you'd buy something like a Prius. Now, everything is becoming a Prius. It's all about being a rounded bubble to lower drag coefficients to increase fuel economy. Aside from supercars like what you all drive, the only car makers who seem to really be putting in effort with things like design and curb appeal is high-end makers like BMW and Mercedes. And that's because their DNA hasn't really changed over the years, which I respect. But even then, cars like the Lexus IS look very similar to the BMWs that are out today. And it's no wonder. For example, the new Toyota Supra is really a BMW Z4. Both cars are built on the same chassis, have the same engine, and have manual transmissions. VW and Audi are basically the same and lack creative differences. Between those two, you're deciding if you want two letters or a row of letters. Another massive reason for similarity is safety regulations. Things like crumple zones and pedestrian-friendly designs have forced automakers to create more boring designs. Enthusiasts always crave for the design ingenuity of the past, with the fins, sharp edges, and retro futurism designs.
Hello, my name is Matt, and I am a nerd. I like cars, and I like weird cars, and I don't know why I like certain cars, but if there's a car I like, it's the DeLorean.
And I argue, if someone did make a futuristic design, the enthusiasts would be the first to complain about it. Oh wait.
Why is the second fastest vehicle that Tesla makes a huge truck? Why do we need that? How does that make the world a better place? If you came here to find out what I think after driving it, I still think it's stupid for all the reasons I've just said.
And don't get me wrong, I like Matt from The Smoking Tire, but I feel there is more disdain for Tesla and the owner than there is for the actual truck. Because as we know, everything in this world has become polarizing. And remember, the DeLorean, like the Cybertruck, faced significant criticism from the auto enthusiasts during its release.
The DeLorean. And with me here, Mr. John DeLorean. Mr. DeLorean, they tell me that you're the best salesman in the world.
All in all, it was a car designed to attract attention and buyers, but it wound up generating a lot more reviews than receipts. And even among the critics, there were many who just weren't impressed with what the DeLorean delivered for its initial asking price of $25,000.
And just for context, labeling John DeLorean as a salesman was intended as an insult, as many believed he was a scammer or a con man. So as much hate the Cybertruck gets, we should be thanking Tesla for at least having the stones to go so off the rails in creativity. Personally, I think the Cybertruck is interesting, and that's for two reasons. One, I don't consider the Cybertruck an actual truck, and I don't think anyone else does either. Two, I don't really consider Tesla a car company. They are more of a tech company, because in reality, Teslas are just rolling iPads. And also, don't get me wrong, I'm all about being a safety Sally.
You're sitting on the toilet, you need to be wearing your safety belt, sir.
Because I also want to ensure automakers put out safe vehicles that don't just protect the driver, but also the people around it. However, at what point are we going to stop holding drivers and pedestrians accountable for their own actions?
90% of the time, the technology failed to stop a vehicle traveling 20 miles per hour. Every time a car turned a corner, it hit the pedestrian. And when a sedan traveling 20 miles an hour encountered two adults, it hit them 80% of the time. The results were even worse in the dark.
Mommy Mercedes shouldn't have to create auto braking because the driver is looking at their phone while driving through a city. And clueless Kenny didn't listen to his parents' advice about looking both ways before crossing the street. All this is doing is leading people down the path to driverless cars, which are technically not even driverless, as a majority of the time, there is a person behind the steering wheel or someone is remotely driving it. And when they do go full autonomous, things like this will happen.
Rescuers work to secure the vehicle in place and extricate the victim quickly within 3 minutes.
Crews had to use the jaws of life to free a pedestrian trapped underneath the cruise vehicle on Monday night. It's a first for police and fire departments involving a driverless car.
After this driverless cruise car rear-ended a Muni bus in March, Cruise founder and CEO Kyle Vogt says they filed a voluntary recall with the National Highway Transportation and Safety Administration.
As a woman, I am concerned a lot of the time after going home after nights out about who my driver is going to be, and I think that's the really nice part about it, and that's what's also helping me not be as concerned about safety, is because the actual biggest safety concern has been dealt with.
Needless to say, it's a disaster, and I don't care how much money they put into it. It's just not going to work. Automating aspects of society are for things like the angry teenager that takes your order at your local fattery, because they aren't in charge of people's lives. Their job is in the obesity department. However, when you get behind the wheel of a car, there is a level of responsibility and social contract we accept, which is why there are tests you take to get a license. But every now and then, the system, it kind of fails.
Bro, she been trying to do this for
Profitability in the automotive industry is a pretty tough challenge. There's not much money left over after paying corporate stakeholders, engineers, supply chain partners, and factory workers. In fact, experts estimate automakers make just around 7% profit per vehicle. To cut costs and stay afloat, many automakers rely on platform sharing, building multiple models on the same chassis, and the dreaded parts bin method, where components are mass-produced and reused across different vehicles. Take Chrysler, for example. Their infotainment system was used across their lineup for at least 12 years, and was used in other models like the Mitsubishi Raider. While this keeps production efficient, it also means that even the most innovative features lose their exclusivity when they're found in everything from the budget vehicle to the high-end models. This cost-cutting approach might be great for profits, but it's a big reason why modern cars often feel, well, just plain boring sometimes. And many legacy automakers are choosing to make less cars for a higher profit margin, which means cars will be more expensive. But what they don't realize is that people are holding onto cars longer than ever before, and many people are upside down on their current car. The last point I'd like to make in this video, and in my opinion, it is the most critical point. Things in our society used to inspire us. Look at the architecture around us. It's all made out of toothpicks and plastic for the sake of efficiency. There is zero inspiration, and I argue it's having the opposite effect. But when I go to Europe and I see these amazing and these beautiful buildings that were just built hundreds of years ago, it inspires me. I can just sit there and study the craftsmanship and the architecture and the design of these buildings, and somehow it sparks a creative side in me that has nothing to do with the buildings, and I'm able to translate that creativeness into other parts of my life. And let me ask you this: do you think this was made for the sake of efficiency? Cars used to be that inspiration. And before you go, I just want to thank everyone for watching, and if you want to get this content a week before it comes out, head over to the Atomic Family Patreon page where you get the content early and you get additional perks as well. So I want to thank everyone again and have a Merry Christmas.